Happy Friday. Today I'm going to be reading chapter 2 of second grade Baby. Remember yesterday we met the character Natalie and she was getting ready for second grade and she noticed her mom put all these tags in her clothes and she did not like it. And she was worried people were going to keep making fun of her saying that she was a baby, which I think is not very nice. But let's see what she does in chapter 2. What happens? Chapter 2. Underwear. That's kind of funny. Natalie stood alone in her room. Her bed was covered with clothes, and every single one was a name tag. Natalie thought about cutting the tags off, but they were sewn in quite tightly. Besides, her mother had worked very hard. The sewing had taken her a long time. Natalie reached for the red sweater and the jeans, and underwear and socks. Only her sneakers had escaped name tags. She hoped the kids at school would not see the babyish tags, but she had a feeling they would be noticed one day, probably very soon. And then kids would chant, baby, baby, kindergarten, baby. That is not nice. Well, that was not quite true, thought Natalie as she walked into her classroom that morning. Not all the kids would do that. Natalie sat at her desk. She looked around. Natalie sat in the front row. That was because she wore glasses. Miss Coleman thought the glasses wearers could see better in the front row. Miss Coleman knew about things like that. Miss Coleman wore glasses herself. And anyway, Miss Coleman knew about a lot of things. Natalie looked at Karen Brewer in the back row. Karen was one of the kids who probably would not tease Natalie. Karen was not a teaser. She talked too much and she bragged and boasted and showed off. But she did not tease, usually. Karen was lucky. She had two best friends, Hanny Papadix and Nancy Dawes. Karen and Hanny and Nancy sat together in the last row. Hanny and Nancy probably would not tease Natalie either. Natalie watched as the other kids entered the classroom. There were Ricky Torres, Bobby Ganali, and Hank Rubens. Definite teasers. There were Jenny Gilbert and Leslie Morris, best friends and more teasers. There were Tammy and Terry Barkins, the twins. They would not tease. They were Natalie's friends. There were Ian Johnson and Chris Lamar, probably teasers, but it was hard to tell. There was Sarah Ford. She was new that year and would not tease. And there was Audrey Green, another definite teaser. Natalie checked her clothes. Good. None of the tag shows. If she were very, very, very careful, perhaps she could keep them hidden. When Miss Coleman entered the room, Natalie began to feel cheerful. First of all, Miss Coleman always made her feel cheerful. Second, Natalie realized she had been sitting in her classroom for almost 20 minutes and no one had seen her name tag. This was a good sign, a very good sign. Miss Coleman picked up her book of lesson plans. Knock, knock. Who was at the door? It was very early in the morning for a visitor. Miss Coleman opened the door to room 2A. Well, hello, Mrs. Springer, Natalie heard Mrs. Coleman say. Mrs. Springer? What was Natalie's mother doing at school? Miss Coleman and Mrs. Springer stepped into the room. Hi, Miss Coleman, Mrs. Springer replied. I just brought this for Natalie. Mrs. Springer held up a brown paper bag. She forgot it this morning. It is her underwear. Her ballet lesson is this afternoon, and Natalie needs a change of clothes. Mrs. Springer waved to Natalie. Then she left. Miss Coleman gave the bag to Natalie. She sat down at her desk and looked at her lesson plans. Then she poked her head into Mrs. Berger's room next door. Mr. Berger was the other second grade teacher. A door joined the two classrooms. Bobby grabbed the paper bag. I want to see Natalie's underwear, he said. Me too, shouted Hank. Before Natalie knew it, every kid in her class had seen it. And every kid had seen the name tags. Oh, man, said Natalie to herself. How do you think she's feeling right now? Her mom had to drop something off, and all the kids were being mean to her about it. How do you think she's feeling? Sounds like they're not being very nice to her. So hopefully on Monday when we read the next chapter, people are nicer to her and she gets some help. Maybe Miss Coleman can help her out. All right. What would you do if that happened? All right. I'll talk to you later. I miss you and I love you. Bye.